Good evening, everybody. I would like to say welcome for all of you for Nadifit webinar series. We started this journey in 2017, having a vision to provide an evidence-based proof. When I say proof, a proof should be very accurate and it should be very specific to the problem, and it should provide a complete clarity for a doctor regarding a disease what the patient is suffering. It provides a complete picture that what is the reason behind us. And as far as the patient is concerned, when he takes the report, it should be able to give an easy understanding for him. Every patient wants to know what is happening in his or her body, and they want to find out, understand the reason behind the cause. So we should provide a complete clarity when it comes to diagnosis. And today we are very happy because many people who are using Nadifit, they're able to convince their patient. And if you take the patient and a doctor relationship, the satisfaction is very higher to give a complete support, starting from diagnosis. If they face any problem with the software, if they face any problem with the hardware, we'll be with them, because the intention is to solve the problem. If any user, Nadifit user, it takes a special case, a patient case, a special chronic case, we are very happy to observe the Nadi, like what happened, what causing him to go for a chronic problems. We want to do a complete kind of a discussion that we do with every Nadifit users. If once in a week, we personally call them, we ask them what problems they are facing, and if they are ready to share with their patient data, patient discussion, we are happy to do that. The intention is the problem has to be solved. Without wasting much time, we'll start the session. In this agenda, today we are going to discuss about the pulse diagnosis, Nadi Pariksha, and its importance, and what challenges we face in manual Nadi Pariksha, how these challenges can be overcome with the help of digital pulse diagnosis or digital Nadi Pariksha, and what technology we are adapting here to acquire the Nadi digitally, and what features we are this month. So what are the new features which we are releasing that we'll discuss. And the basic three doshas, VPK, are in Ayurveda, are the yin and yang in TCM. Is they are sufficient for detailed analysis? That we are going to discuss. If not, how can we do a detailed diagnosis, a depth diagnosis? And the organ level pulse analysis, that also we'll discuss today. And the disease diagnosis. I'm going to take few chronic diseases, how these diseases can be diagnosed through the Nadi, that we'll discuss today. And what are the features the upcoming version of Nadifit has, and what versions we have and what offers we have for today. And at the end, we'll conclude it. And finally, we'll keep it the questions and discussions at the end. Okay. So pulse diagnosis Nadi Pariksha. This is a 5,000-year-old science. But I'll tell you one thing, in my personal experience, this is really a topmost diagnosis tool. Really a topmost diagnosis, because we are not only diagnosing the physical problem here. Through pulse, we can understand the emotional diagnosis. We can understand the personality of the person. And we can understand the body intelligence. That is very important. We should listen to the body first. Many of us, we do a symptomatic way of treatment. Of course, it was symptomatic way of treatment. But if you take the success probability of a person who is treating based on the Nadi, he is much higher compared to the person who is treating based on the symptoms. Because I personally believe is treating based on symptoms is like closing our eyes and walking in a dark room. You don't know exactly where to go. Some patient comes to you and he says, I'm suffering from headache. We don't know the reason behind that cause. And it's very hard to predict the exact reason. But if we are able to understand the pulse, we are not only diagnosing a single problem, we can understand the multiple problems which he is suffering from. And if the pulse pattern, if it is, let's say, continuously for 6 months or 1 year, if the same pattern is repeating, what may be the chronic problem we will end up with? So that level of predictions we can do if we are able to understand the Nadi or pulse properly. In traditional Chinese medicine, the Nadi Pariksha is done by considering both the hands. I'm talking in the manual Nadi Pariksha. So they consider both the hands and at 3 positions on right hand and 3 positions on the left hand. At each position, they try to understand the energy levels in terms of yin and yang. The entire TCM stands on yin and yang energy. So what is the yin and yang in the liver? What is the yin and yang in the stomach? What is the yin and yang in the kidney? So they try to understand the organ level of pulse. In fact, it's a depth diagnosis they try to do. Whereas in Ayurveda, the entire Ayurveda stands on three doshas, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And even in Ayurveda also, they will provide depth diagnosis, levels of diagnosis. In every level, they try to derive subdoshas, dhatus, chakras, and even prakriti. So this diagnosis, a detailed diagnosis, which provides a complete understanding about the patient problems and his body. But in manual Nadi Pariksha, there is a challenge actually. It's very hard to acquire this science. In my personal experience, if someone wants to learn the Nadi Pariksha, the most primary thing is like his mind should be completely empty while reading the Nadi. Should be very focused. But this problem we can overcome with the help of digital Nadi Pariksha. Because manual Nadi Pariksha is all about feeling. And he has to imagine. He has to create. He should have an imagination power. Okay, the pulse, what maybe the pulse is going, whether it is a Sarpagati, whether it is Hamsagati, whether it is Manduka Gati. He has to feel, he has to experience that. But when it comes to digital Nadi Pariksha, what we do is like we take the data and we'll display in the computer screen. The changes, what it is happening in the Nadi patterns, that we can watch in our bare eyes. And even in the traditional manual way of Nadi Pariksha is like the Vaidyas used to hold Nadi at 3 different positions. Vata, Pitta, Kapha. They're observing the patterns, the Nadi patterns at 3 different positions. And initially we also thought, okay, since the traditional way is telling like take the Nadi at 3 different positions, let's design the 3 different sensors to capture the Nadi. And we did that. Collected. And when we tried to validate with the patient problem and also with the Vaidyas, the results were confusing. And then further, we met few allopathy doctors also in this journey. And when we look into the anatomy of the radial artery, especially on the wrist region, there is a single artery which carries a blood. There is a single artery at the wrist region. Then what we felt is like, since there is a single artery, let's take the pulse at only one position. And we are going to decide this position in such a way that where we feel a maximum sensation, so that we'll get the proper Nadi patterns. Take the pulse at one position and try to derive all the three doshas, I mean, this three energies. And we also validated this with the patient problem and also with the Nadi Vaidyas. It was exactly matching to the patient problem. We could be able to see, observe it in the Nadi patterns, what the patient is saying. So that was the first breakthrough we got. And we also published this in a medical journal, in an article, a single position based pulse diagnosis system, where we explained by taking a Nadi at single position, also in the three positions, what actual changes is happening. And once we got this VPK, Vata Pitta Kapha, so we are able to understand the patient problems. So that is all about the digital Nadi Pariksha. And in today, we are introducing the Ayurveda version of Nadifit. In the last month, we released. This week, we are releasing the Ayurveda version of Nadifit. And today, we are going to discuss like what features this Ayurveda version has and how we can diagnose any diseases with the help of this device. So primarily, after taking the Nadi patterns, it provides the Tridosha analysis and also the organ energy levels that we have discussed today. And to make this process easier, to make the report understanding, we are using a generative AI technology there. And it generates the report in the Ayurveda language, that also we'll discuss today. And symptom prediction, image generation. So that we'll cover one by one point. And also it provides the subdosha analysis and the diet and lifestyle recommendations. So this in detail, one by one. So the first thing is the Tridosha analysis. We know that in Ayurveda, stands on Vata Pitta Kapha, Tridoshas. The problem is, the question here is that, okay, when we do the Nadi Pariksha, means when we do the Nadi analysis, we're able to get the three doshas, VPK. The major problem was we faced is that, is this data is sufficient for disease diagnosis? If I say a person has excess pitta or vata or kapha, is this sufficient for detailed diagnosis? Because there are more than 80 types of diseases the person may suffer due to imbalance in vata. So that means in order to understand these many number of diseases, just a single tridosha will not give a much information. And even in the TCM language, we speak about yin and yang. TCM and Ayurveda are almost similar. The difference is that the terminologies are different here. Because in TCM speaks about chi energy, where Ayurveda speaks about prana. The concept is same. Here they use the terminology tejas and ojas. Here they use chi, deficiency, excess, chi stagnation. But the principle of understanding, the concept is same. When I say VPK from Ayurveda or the yin and yang from TCM, these data are not sufficient for detailed diagnosis. And if I say pitta, a person is suffering from excess pitta, there may be a number of problems he may suffer due to rise in pitta. This is easier. This VPK is easier if the patient and doctor relation, if there is a patient and relationship. Example, a patient is suffering from acidity. He will go to a doctor and the doctor will do the Nadi Pariksha. He'll check the Nadi Okay, pitta is excess. He will say, okay, you are suffering from acidity because of excess of pitta. That is fine. But if a computer takes a nadi of a person and it identifies that, okay, he has excess of pitta, and if I ask a computer, okay, what is his problems? It's going to generate n of problems due to excess of pitta. He may suffering from headache. He may suffering from sweating problem. He may suffering from swelling problem. He may suffering from varicose vein problem, hair fall issues, PCOD problem. So it's very important to know that what exactly this patient problem is. So then we understood that VPK alone will not give a detailed diagnosis. Then we try to derive the different energy levels from the basic VPK, different energy levels. In Ayurveda, we derive it as, in Pitta, we derive it to two different categories. We call it as empty Pitta and damp Pitta. We'll discuss in detail what is empty Pitta, what is damp Pitta. And similarly, Vata, empty Vata and damp Vata. And similarly, Kapha, empty Kapha and damp Kapha. Energy derived. And similarly, in TCM, the Pitta, we call it as heat, empty heat and damp heat. And Vata, dryness, empty dry and damp dry. Coldness, empty cold and damp cold. We try to derive 6 energies from 3 different energies so that we could able to understand the patient better and his problems better. We'll discuss in this in one by one. So when it comes to Pitta or heat, we are deriving this into 2 different categories. Empty Pitta or empty heat and the damp heat, the damp Pitta. What is empty heat? To understand this better, I'll take an example. I'll take a vessel, an empty vessel, an aluminum vessel, nothing in that, and I'll keep it on the stove, the burning stove. When the flame starts burns, right, the vessel will get heat. And even the flame continuously burning, the excess heat will make the vessel the complete dark. Complete dark. It will burn and it turns into dark. Even if I increase the heat further, at one point of time, it is going to change the shape of that vessel. So that is empty heat or empty pitta. Now, if I correlate this to Ayurveda, we call this as dry heat, means pitta vata. Pitta vata. Whereas if I correlate this to yin and yang, where the yang is excess, the yin is deficient. This is empty heat. The yin is completely deficient. The yang is excess. I told pitta vata. Pitta means fire. Vata means air. Assume that a forest catches a fire in a summer season. A fire and the air, a forest catches both the fire and the air, means wind and air. Wind and fire. It will burn the whole forest without a mercy. Complete forest without a mercy. That is empty heat. Now, assume that the same pitta vata, if it is in the human body, in the person, it will burn the whole person without a mercy. Now assume that the same pitta vata, if it is in kidney, what is the function of kidney? Kidney controls our bones. Kidney is responsible for water metabolism. This pitta vata, this empty heat, it will dry out your Kleshaka kapha, the kapha which is very responsible for lubricating the joints, the synovial fluids. It's completely dry out the fluids and making the person to suffer from joint pain issues, knee pain issues, back pain issues. And this fire is so strong, it will not allow him to person to sleep. He will be having disturbed sleep in the night. It will not allow him to go for a deep sleep. The kidney fire is rising. It will internally affecting the heart. I mean the manas. It's completely burning. And in the chronic cases, chronic stage, this empty heat or empty leads to arthritis, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis after crossing 60 plus age. And we have seen many patients actually, especially in the chronic cases after crossing 60. The fingers and the joints starts bending because the nature of fire is so strong. Because the fire is so strong here that it changed the structure also. So that is empty heat. If I correlate this vessel to the human body, this vessel is our body and this fire is our activity, and the inside that water, let's say if I keep a water inside the vessel, that is our rest. To balance our body, our activity and rest should be balanced. But in case of empty heat, what happens? Person is doing too much activity. Restless activity is not giving a rest for the body. Definitely the heat rises. The rising in heat, it will consume his body fluids only. And the same empty heat, suppose example, if same pitta if it is resides in the stomach, the kledaka kapha, the kapha which is the inner wall of the stomach, responsible for balancing the HCl, means the Jataragni, the hydrochloric acid. It diminishes. It diminishes the kledaka kapha. The person end up with burning sensation, stomach burning sensation, acidity issues. And there is, I think, and you don't think there's a lot of difference between acidity and gastric. I'll come to this point later. And if empty heat is rising in the stomach, what is the nature of fire? It always moves towards upwards. While moving upwards, it creates the burning sensation in the esophagus, chest pain issues, mouth ulcers, headache issues. If it is in the liver, the same pitta vata, if it is in the liver, the person is anger, aggressive, is irritating a lot. And this liver fire, the fire is moving upwards, triggers the thyroid gland and creates hormonal imbalance, especially in the women. Many women suffer from blood deficiency, menstruation problems. The liver fire is so strong, it creates the eye burning sensation, hair fall issues, shoulder pain. All the pain resides in the upper part of the body because the fire is moving upwards. So that is empty heat or pitta vata. And the other case, look at the damp heat. There is a dampness and there is a heat. Pitta kapha. When I say kapha or a damp, is heavy. Kapha is related to water. Water is heavy. When I say heavy or the water, it always flows, means goes towards the gravity. It moves towards gravity. Now, how do I understand this damp heat? I'll take the same vessel again. Now this time I'll put a water into that. I'll put it on the stove and I'll switch on the stove. The first thing is the water starts heated and further increase the heat, water starts boiling. And as soon as this boils, vapor starts coming. I'll keep my hand on top of this vapors. These vapors and come and stick onto my hand. I can feel the heat and also there is a water droplets. That is damp heat. There is a dampness plus there is a heat. But the intensity of damp heat is minimal compared to the empty heat because empty heat is a fire actually. Damp heat, there is a dampness, there is a water retention, there is a kapha, plus there is a heat. I can feel the heat. So that is damp heat. And this dampness is heavy. It always goes towards the downwards. Now, while going downward, it won't go. What it does is like it carries this heat and moves towards the downwards. Now assume that the person has damp heat in the kidney, in the lower part of the body, let's say kidney and bladder, or in spleen and stomach. All his problems resides in the lower part of the body only. Because this heat, this dampness or this kapha carries this heat and moves towards the downwards, creates the food burning sensation, swelling, leg swelling issues, varicose vein problems, hip joint pain, knee pain, pelvis pain, all these problems in the lower part of the body. And when I say varicose vein, I'll tell you an example to understand this varicose vein even better. I'll take a tube, a pipeline structure rubber tube. There's nothing in that. I'll close the other end. I mean, the bottom side, I'll close it. And I'll pour a water into that. A cold water. What happens? Due to the force of this water, the tube will get bulge. Now, I'll take another tube. I'll close the bottom side. Now, this time I'll pour a hot water into that. The rate of bulging is much faster compared to when I did in cold water. Definitely, a person has damp heat or pitta kapha in the lower part of the body. He is more prone to varicose veins compared to the person who has only a kapha. Because the pitta is increasing that metabolism, that bulging rate faster. And the same pitta kapha resides in the stomach. The person may end up with gastric problem. There's a lot of difference between acidity and gastric. Let me explain with this like actually how these two are different. When in case of empty heat, I told you that if the empty heat in the stomach, it will reduce the kleraka kapha and creates the burning sensation. The fire is so strong that it tries to move upwards, creates the acid reflux. Burning sensation in the chest pain issues. So that is acidity. The acid reflux is more. The fire is more. But when it comes to gastritis or gastric, say I'm suffering from gastric. Yes. To understand this gastric better, I'll take an example again. We know that in the traditional way, if you take an unripened banana, a tender banana, which is not ripened, which is in green color, what is the traditional way to ripe it? How our ancestors used to ripe this banana because currently what happens, we use a lot of chemicals. If you put chemicals today, by the next morning, all this banana will become ripe. They will turn into yellow. But in the traditional way, our parents used to do, our fathers used to do that. They're taking this unripened banana, they're putting in a closed container. The closed container. Make sure that there's no air gap into that. I mean, there's no external airflow into that. Completely a closed container. And they were keeping it for 7 days, 10 days. After 10 days, when they open it, and when you put a hand inside it, into the container, this banana is, of course, they'll turn into yellow color. I mean, they become ripe. But if you put your hand into this container, you can feel there is a hotness. And also you can feel there is a dampness, the water droplets coming and sitting on your finger. So that is damp heat. Now, if I come to our body, we use we eat a lot of junk food. We eat a lot of foods, heavy meals. We use spicy foods. All these, meals what we are eating daily, they're packing inside the stomach. And I told you there is a dampness. Since there is a dampness, the digestion is not up to the mark. All this food, whatever we are eating, is packing inside the stomach. It's we call as stagnation. Completely packed. And as soon as it's completely packed, there rises a heat. There rises a heat. Since the food is undergoing the fermentation process, it is releasing the air particles. And these air particles, when it meets with the heat, we know in the physics, right? When the air gets heated, that will become lighter. It will take the momentum. Air becomes lighter, and it tries to go out from it. It tries to go out from the stomach. It hits the inner wall of the stomach. That's what many people who suffer from gastritis, they feel bloating sensation, heaviness in the stomach, frequent burping, flatulence, bad gas going out from the body. And many people we have seen that this air, that the air is getting heated, it will trap in the joints. They say, I am suffering from vayu due to the air block. I am suffering from knee pain, joint pain, shoulder pain, chest pain. So the main reason is the damp heat in the stomach. So that is actually gastritis. Many people don't eat pumpkin. No, I don't eat pumpkin because I have gastric. Because the pumpkin is the one which easily, in the fermentation process, it releases the gas. So that is gastric actually. So now, if we look into the categories of dryness, I mean the vata, again we try to derive into two different categories. We call it as empty vata and the damp vata. Or in Ayurveda, we call it as pure vata. There's a pure vata. There is nothing in that. Pure, complete vata. Now, to understand this much better, what I will do, I'll take an example. That after washing our clothes, we go to the terrace. We will try to dry out that. Assume that the external weather is too hot. It's a summer season. The first thing, the cloth will get dry. If the sunlight is even increased too much, the cloth starts changing the shape. Correct, due to the dry, because the cloth will dry out and it will start changing the shape. I mean, that means the wrinkle starts forming in the cloth. It's going to change the shape. It's going to fold. So that is empty dry. or the empty vata. Now, if I correlate, suppose example, this empty dry or empty vata, if it is in the lungs, definitely the person is suffering from wrinkles on the skin, because lungs is the one which controls our external defensive mechanism, skin. He feels wrinkles on the skin because of the dryness, white patches on the skin, white color peeling. The skin starts peels. And if it is in the liver, definitely he will be having brittle nails, dandruff. And if it is in the large intestine, definitely he is suffering from constipation issues. Is dry stools. Is really, it's really hard for him to go for motion. He feel very hard. And if it is in the lungs, suppose assume that a person has a chronic lung dryness, he can easily go for depression. We can make him easily go to a depressed, that person. If you do a small imitate about that guy, he will easily go to depressed. He will easily become sad because the lung energy is weak. The emotion of dryness is depression, sad, grief. And many people who do chronic smoking, this chest region becomes flat because the dryness, too much dried, that it will just congest like this, congest like a dried cloth. And his chest region will become complete flat. And he suffers from chronic asthma because inside the lung, the alveoli and the air sacs will get completely closed and he enables to breathe properly. He feel breathlessness in the chronic cases. So that is empty dry or empty vata. It's a pure dryness. And when it comes to damp vata or a damp dry, I'll take the same cloth. Now this time this is rainy season. All these cloths, if the external weather is too much damp, all these cloths absorb water in the air or the rainwater, which absorb this, and they feel they're unable to move. They feel, I mean, it's unable to move for them because the cloth become very heavy because of the dampness. In Ayurveda, if you talk, this is completely a vata kapha. Vata kapha means the kapha is obstructing the vata. What is the nature of a vata person actually? A person who has a vata, he will never sit in one position. He will never sit in one position. He will roam here and there. But if this for this vata person, if kapha comes and obstruct him, his momentum will become slow. Now, same thing if it is in vata kapha, if it is in liver controls our muscular system. But since it is because of damp vata or vata kapha, it is obstructing is this momentum. The person feels lazy, lethargy, feeling sleepy. If I ask him to do a work, he will say, I will do it tomorrow. Postponing the things, not interested. If the same vata kapha, if it is in the spleen or stomach, His digestion is too weak. If he eats morning, afternoon he will say, I don't feel hungry. His digestion is too poor. So that is damp water. And this is something like, if you observe, suppose, especially for, if you do a smoke, right? When we do a smoke in the summer season, let's say in the summer season, the smoke which is coming out in the summer season, the smoke will easily flush out in the air and it will pass out. Correct? It will easily flush out in the air because the air is dry and it has momentum. It will pass out. It will go away from us. But in the rainy season, let's say there's too much rain happened today and evening we went to go for smoke. And when we do a smoke, right, the smoke comes out, the smoke will not go easily. The momentum is slow because of the dampness is high because of the kapha, it is obstructing that momentum. And the external sunlight has a direct impact on the Jataragni. Suppose in the early morning when we wake up outside, if it is feeling heavy rain, we feel to sleep again in the bed on the bed. We feel sleepy, we feel lazy. That is how if the damp vata, it is in the inside our body, the person is like that only. He lazy means he is not active at all. We'll discuss this damp vata pattern today. I want to discuss this with this pattern only with a chronic disease. In the next coming slides, we'll discuss in detail about this. And in the kapha, again, we are deriving into two different categories. We call it as empty cold or empty kapha, or a damp cold and damp kapha. To understand this better, if you take a water, normal water, what is the nature of water? Water is momentum. It will move and it will take the whichever the object you keep inside that, it will take that shape. Now this water, I will put it in a cooler. When I put it in the cooler, I will get a cold water. But there is a momentum. I can feel but there is a coldness. Definitely, the person has the empty kapha, I mean the empty cold. He feels cold feelings, chillness. But his digestion is weak because Agni plays a very important role in digestion. And in case of damp cold, means the water is converting into ice. Solidification of the ice means water into the ice. It's a chronic case. It's a completely chronic case. Damp cold or a damp 100% kapha, I can say. And if this kapha, if it is in the kidney or in the bladder, in the lower part of the body, the person may end up with edema issues. If someone is suffering from edema, leg swelling, this is not today's problem. This is not yesterday's problem. The body has undergone several changes to come up with this problem. And these people, they do a lot of means frequent urination, white color, pale color urination, because the body wants to throw out all the fluids out. And if it is in the spleen or stomach, and we have seen many, female problems actually, especially fibroids problem, uterine fibroids, cyst formation. Hello, is my voice is audible?
Yes, sir. It's properly audible.
Okay, fine. Yeah, thank you. I got a message. Yes.
You are audible, sir.
Yes, yes. Okay, fine. I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a chronic case actually. His digestion. Uh, Arun Arya, could you mute your mic, sir? Okay, fine. Thank you. Yeah, it's a chronic case. And the digestion is very weak. It's poor. I can say the Pachaka Pitta or the Ranjaka Pitta is completely deficient. The Agni is completely deficient. And if this damp kapha or damp cold, if it is in the lower part of the body, I mean, especially in the stomach or in the kidney, all the problems the patient suffers at the lower part of the body only, lower part of the body. And many actually, many cases we've seen actually that impotence problem, especially infertility. The mortality of the sperm is very low. So this is a completely chronic case. So that is damp cold or damp kapha. Now, after deriving this, all this.
Sir, in terms of yin and yang, can you
Yes.
just briefly explain? Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
yes, madam. Actually, when it comes to the yin and yang in the TCM, we call this case as completely yang deficiency. The yang is completely deficient. You can see that the yang is completely going negative in both the cases. The yang is completely deficient. If it is a kidney, it's called kidney yang deficiency. If it is in stomach, spleen yang deficiency. And many people who suffer from due to this yang deficiency, they suffer from the lack of blood deficiency. And the blood is not producing up to the level. Because to produce the blood, to convert rasa to rakta, the Agni plays a very important role. Pachaka Pitta or Ranjaka Pitta, fire, plays a very important role. If the heat is deficient, the food will not convert into blood. Rasa to rakta, it's unable to convert. And the person may end up with blood deficiency problem. So completely yang deficiency, madam. This is completely yang deficiency case, chronic case. This is not today's problem, yesterday's problem. The body has undergone several changes to come with this problem. Many patients we have seen that they have infertility issues from 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's a completely chronic case. Lack of physical activity. Person is there's zero in physical activity. So understanding these energies are very important to provide a depth diagnosis. Now, when it comes to understanding of this and all these energy levels, we try to understand. Okay, after understanding the energy levels, it is very important for us that where is this energy levels are affecting, whether it is affecting in which organ, that is very important. Which organ has energy imbalance, which organ has dosha imbalance, so that we can speak exactly specific to the problem. To understand better, we have really a beautiful theory, 5-element theory or a panchabhuta theory. In Ayurveda we call it as panchabhuta theory, or in TCM we call it as 5-element theory. In my personal experience, this theory, I don't know who made this, a really, really beautiful theory. This nature is made up of 5 elements or panchabhutas. Our body is also made up of or Panchabhutas. Whatever happens in the nature, same thing happens in our body. That's what we always believe, that we should be with the nature. We cannot go against the nature. If nature is wake up, we should wake up. If nature sleeps, we should sleep. But in today's generation, we are completely doing ulta. Many of my friends who works in IT, they never seen a sunlight at all. They go to the office, they have the night shift. They go to morning 7, they work till morning 6. They'll come to morning and they'll sleep whole day. And again the evening they will wake up and they'll go. They're completely against the nature. It's very difficult. We cannot go against the nature. We'll end up with a chronic problem that we will never able to recover from it. And this theory is a really beautiful theory. I'll tell you a simple example here, how best this theory is. Now, I told you that example while explaining the gastric case. I told you that unripened banana, when it is ripening, it means from, we used to keep it inside a container where it rises the heat that is converting into the ripening thing, correct? And if I correlate this concept to the 5 elements, we have 5 different elements here. The wood element means we call it as wind in TCM, wood, or Akasha Tattva, fire, Agni, we can call, and earth element, we call it Prithvi, lungs, metal element, and water, Jala Tattva. And in TCM, they will explain it beautifully, like generation cycle and control cycle. That's a really vast theory. Now, if I take a wood element or Akasha Tattva, the person who has excess of Akasha Tattva or a chronic Akasha Tattva, he is, I can say, he is innocent. He doesn't hold the things. It means I can say that his memory power is poor. And whatever he speaks, those words don't have much weightage. They're not weighted words actually. Akasha Tattva, that's a space. And wind, this Akasha Tattva, we correlate, the wood element, we correlate to the young and tender leaves. It's in green in color. That's why in 5 element theory, wind is represented in green color. The tender banana, or the unripened banana, what we explained, it is in green color. It's tender. It's immature. The best example for wood element is the kid, 12-year kid, 15-year-old kid. If you take the pulse of a kid, it's a wind pulse. Whatever they speak, they don't have, the words don't much weightage in that. And they cry, they'll forget easily. They'll fight, they'll forget easily. That's how the personality is. He's innocent, he's young. And when the heat is coming into picture, and in the case of unripened banana, what we did, we kept in a closed container and it turns into the yellow. The yellow is represented in humidity or earth element, or Prithvi, we represent in yellow color. That means there's a maturity. He will think and speak. Whatever the words come in his mouth, from his mouth, they have weighted words. Where fire plays a very important role. The heat plays a very important role to convert the wood element to the earth element. The unripened banana, the green, unripened, tender banana to the yellow, matured banana. The fire plays a very important role. It's called light. Fire, we can correlate to light. We'll speak light, we will tell. light will enlighten the person. It will give a direction. It will give a direction. Light is a guru. He will tell us where to go. He will tell us, he will teach us through a student what is a good direction, so that it will make him a good person in the society. And it also depends on what type of heat is there. That is also very, very important. That we'll discuss in detail for the webinar series. We'll discuss that in detail. It's a very vast theory, beautiful theory. We can correlate, we can adopt this in our lifestyle, daily lifestyle. And these 5 elements also correlate to the organs. The wood element is correlated to liver and gallbladder. The fire is correlated to heart and small intestine. The earth element is correlated to spleen and stomach. The metal element is correlated to lungs and large intestine. And the water element is correlated to kidney and bladder. If we are able to understand the pulse, the 5 element through the pulse, we can exactly speak the personality of the person. We can judge what the person is. So what we do is, like, through the pulse, we try to understand the organs which is imbalanced and also the energy which is associated with that. Now we discussed about 6 different energies and the organ which is imbalanced. Through the 5 element, we'll get to know which is the organ which is imbalanced. Now in this example, you can see the organ which is imbalanced, this spleen and stomach, are the earth element which is imbalanced. What imbalance it happened here? The empty heat. The yin is deficient. In terms of TCM, I'm talking about here. This graph is for TCM. The yin is deficient, the yang is excess. It's completely empty heat. It's a fire. The fire in stomach, definitely the person has burning sensation, stomach burning sensation, acidic problems, chest burning sensation, mouth ulcers. The fire is rising up. So that level of disease diagnosis we can do if we are able to understand the organ and the energy. And in the Ayurveda perspective, I am taking another pattern here. Same spleen stomach. But the energy associated with it is Vata Kapha. Pitta is efficient. I told you the Vata Kapha means creates lazy. The digestion is weak. The digestion is not up to the mark. And if same Vata Kapha, if it is in the lungs, person may end up with phlegm accumulation, sinus problem, because of the retention of dampness in the upper part of the body. So that is a diagnosis we can do if we are able to understand the 5 element or the Panchabhuta and the energy which is associated with that. And we also published a journal on this, on disease diagnosis through this organ pattern. This we call it as organ pattern analysis. So how we can understand organ patterns and how we can do the disease diagnosis with the help of organ pattern, that we are published a paper on this in detail. You can go through that. And now I'll take few organ patterns, and I want to discuss a few chronic disease cases. How these, Nadi patterns are trying the Nadi patterns. How we can able to understand any chronic disease. So I'll take a single case now. So the top 2 graph, it is showing in terms of TCM, that we call it as liver chi stagnation. There is excess of in retention in the liver and the stomach. Whereas in Ayurveda thing, it's completely Vata. both in liver as well as in stomach. So that means there is none at all. I can say a damp vata in the liver or in the stomach. Now, how can we understand a person who is suffering from fatty liver issues through these organ patterns? When I say the fat, in these cases, what happens in the organ pattern, if you see that the Agni is completely deficient, there is no Agni at all, there is no Pachaka Pitta, there is no Ranjaka Pitta, the Agni is completely deficient. Whatever the food we eat, the food, if it did not metabolize properly, I mean, it did not convert the food blood, it creates a toxin. We call in Ayurveda, we call it as ama, the ama retention, or building up fat. These fat cells, if you look into the means adipocytes, we call it as adipocytes or fat cells. If you look into the anatomy of these fat cells, they are circular in shape, they are oval in shape. Due to this nature, they are the building blocks of the organs which are circular in shape. If you take heart, they are the building block, means these fats, means cells are building blocks of heart, liver, diaphragm, uterus, kidneys. Because all these organs, they are spherical in shape. And if you look in the outside the body, if you take the shoulder region or the belly region, this is in the curvature, the belly region, or the buttocks, or the breast region. All these fat cells are the building blocks of these organs. And what is the function of liver? Liver is a chemical factory. There are a lot of chemical reactions happens in the liver. When I say chemical reaction, the chemical reaction will happen much faster if there is a heat in that. If there is a heat in the media, the reaction will go much faster. To convert fat into fatty acids, it's a chemical reaction. They need a Agni. The bile plays a very important pitta, plays a very important role in converting fat to fatty acids, glycogen, glucose. If the Agni is deficient, the fats which will not convert into fatty acids, because these fat cells are the reservoirs of lipids, the reservoirs of fats. All these cells contains these fats. And if they convert into fatty acids, they'll keep on building. They'll keep on building the liver and ending up the person to suffer from, in the chronic case, the fatty liver. This has become common. There's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease common even in 30, 35-year-old generation, because the lack of Agni. Agni is completely deficient here. And these cells, over the period of time, what happens? This retention of ama or stagnation, what it does is like it's going to cover the liver cells over the period of time. It's going to complete, the ama completely covers the liver cells. And once the cell is completely covered, it's unable to communicate. It's unable to receive the energy. It's unable to receive. It's unable to perform the metabolism. It unable to receive glucose. It unable to receive the insulin to perform the cellular metabolism. And the cell starts dying, decaying. In the chronic case, the patient end up with liver cirrhosis. In the first initial stage, fatty liver, liver fibrosis, and the liver cirrhosis. in the chronic cases I'm talking about. And the food which is not digested properly, the retention of ama, which is going to create a stagnation in the inner wall of the artery, the person may end up with high blood pressure, the arteries blockage. And we have seen that since these fat cells are building blocks of circular organs, we can see that when the fat is increased, it's going to cover the heart region, the chest region. And if the fat increases, it's going to cover the belly region. It's going to come and sit in the belly, shoulder area, buttocks area. And many people, the major symptoms who are suffering from fatty liver, they feel lazy, lethargy, because the metabolism is not up to the mark in the liver, because liver is unable to supply the energy. It is unable to metabolize the glucose, or it is unable to metabolize the glycogen into glucose or fat into fatty acids. The cells are not receiving it. The muscular cells are not receiving the energy for cellular metabolicity. Now, what is happening? They feel lazy. They feel lethargy. They feel always feels to sleep. So the main reason is the lack of Ranjaka Pitta. The Pitta is very deficient here. And to burn this fat, many doctors suggest people who are suffering from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, they suggest, or people who suffering from more cholesterol issues, the doctor suggests to do a physical activity. When I say burn the fat, burn. When I say burn, to burn, we need oxygen. We need oxygen. How do we get oxygen? We get oxygen in the nature. We take it through a process called breathing, and it goes to the blood. From blood, it goes to the cell where the metabolism happens. But a person who is suffering from fatty liver or the increase in cholesterol, what oxygen is breathing through the normal breathing process is sufficient to burn the fat. He needs more oxygen. How do we get more oxygen? When we do a physical activity. When we do a lot of physical activity, especially early in the morning, empty stomach, exposing your body to the nature. I'm not talking about indoor activity where we'll not have oxygen at all. Expose your body to the nature, do a physical activity, empty in the stomach, it will burn maximum fat. Once oxygen goes into the cells, cellular metabolism happens. It creates the fire, it will burn the fat. So this is how this damp vata or vata kapha or a damp dry, it in the chronic state, it turns into fatty liver cases. That is the case study I wanted to discuss. And if the same damp vata, especially for the women, because liver plays a very important role in the women gynec issues. If there is a deficient Agni, the food is not converting into blood, the person may end up with blood deficiency problem, and in turn, which troubles their menstruation cycle. They may end up with irregular periods because the liver is unable to nourish the gynec organs by supplying the proper menstruation blood. And also there is a cyst formation because the retention of stagnation, the retention of ama, it creates the lump formation in the body. We have seen many patients that, they feel there is a formation of lump formation. They say, hello? Hello? Sorry, want to say something? Kumara? Hello? Okay. Just a minute. So that is a stagnation because the undigested food which turns into toxin and body wants to throw it because body don't want to hold any unwanted things in it. We have seen many people who have weak digestion, especially in the uh, damp water case or in the yang deficiency case. Those who have weak digestion, they also suffer from phlegm accumulation, kapha formation in the lungs, because that the undigested food it tries to throw out in the form of a phlegm, and people suffer from lump formation in the body because of weak digestion. And we have seen in many videos, I have seen that they will say drinking a milk before going to bed will give you will help you to achieve deep sleep. I agree this because milk has many amino acids inside it. It helps in providing a deep sleep. But it is, in the other hand, it is very important to see that who has to drink the milk. The person who has the damp water, there is no agni at all. There is no pachaka agni. There is no uh, ranjaka pitta. There is no jataragni at all. Drinking a milk itself is a big problem for him because milk is very hard to digest. We used to give milk for kid because kid have strong digestion power. If you have excess of empty heat in the stomach or pitta vata or pitta in the stomach, ranjaka pitta is excess, pachaka pitta is excess. Yes, you can drink milk because already you are suffering from disturbed sleep due to the pitta. Drinking milk will give you what do you call compensate that pitta. That's fine. But the person who have a weak digestion at all, first of all, is able to the agni is very weak here. Drinking milk itself will create a toxin for him. It will create a toxin. It will create a stagnation, and you'll end up with bloating issues, heaviness issues. That is a beauty of this Ayurveda or this holistic science or TCM, is that every person is different here. Whereas allopathy says every person is unique. They have a reference range. If everybody comes, sorry, if everybody comes in this range, they'll say he is normal. If everybody goes out of this range, they say all are abnormal. But Ayurveda is not like that, or TCM is not like that. Every person is different. If I am suffering from excess pitta, my problems are different. If someone is suffering from excess pitta, his problems are different again. And when it comes to food, we can make it completely customized food based on these Nadi patterns and all. So that is all about this damp water organ patterns. So when it comes to features, sorry. So we take the pulse at one position. It creates, means we record the Nadi patterns for 20 seconds. Earlier we were in the TCM version. We were generating the diagnosis report in the TCM language. Means in terms of chi, in terms of stagnation, in terms of excess, in terms of deficiency, in completely TCM language. Whereas in this Ayurveda version, this diagnosis report generates in the Ayurveda language in terms of sabdoshas, in terms of dhatus, in terms of chakras. And all this diagnosis information depends on the patient age, the patient gender, and the patient chronic or acute problem. And every day we are tuning the model. We are tuning the model. The intention is to go very near to the patient problem. Every day we are updating. Every day we are tuning. As soon as we get a lot of data to the server, because many Nadifit users, where they're taking the data, we get a lot of data. When we get a lot of data, it will help the model to understand even better. As soon as we get more data, that is the AI, right? That's the quality of AI. Means like if we get more and more data, it will become more and more accurate. So in the Ayurveda thing, so completely in Ayurveda language only it will speak. And we also try to provide the symptom generation based on the Nadi patterns, auto prediction of symptoms. This feature we added to understand the patient better, to provide a healthy connection with the patient. Because in my personal thing, the success mantra in this holistic science is that whenever a patient comes to you, a doctor should speak with respect to his problems only, then only we will connect. So in order to make it that process easier, we try to provide an auto symptom prediction. We added this feature so that the doctor can understand the patient better. And we are tuning this model. We are tuning this model to identify more symptoms of a patient. So this is one feature we added. It's similar to the Nadi Vaidya, when they were Nadi and they were trying to predict the symptoms of a patient. We are trying to mimic that with the help of technology. And we also added one more feature, that image generation feature. This is another AI model. What it does is like the patient symptom feature, it generates in the form of image. And it also tries to give the description the reason behind the problem, both in Ayurveda as well as in TCM language. Because this will help, because earlier we did not add this feature actually. But what happens is that in nowadays generation, people don't have that much patience to read the diagnosis information, especially when it comes to patient, right? They don't have time to read and understand that. They don't give much importance. What we thought is like, okay, let's add whatever his sufferings are there, try to display in the form of image, so that looking at that image, he will come to know, okay, what is my problems are and what is the reason behind my problems. So making that process easier and quicker and exact. So this is the feature we added. This is a new feature actually, which we updated in TCM, and the same thing we update this in Ayurveda also. And we added one more feature called wellness tracks. It is already there in TCM. Yes, we are adding in Ayurveda also, because we, in my personal experience, it's very hard to understand the patient better if I take a Nadi only one time. Suppose example, first time a patient comes to me or a doctor, he will take the Nadi. Explain about this patient means I can explain looking at the Nadi patterns or looking at the symptoms, which is saying I can explain, okay, maybe you're suffering from this is problem. But if the patient asks me, explain about even more how I am, how I personally are, emotionally how I am. If he asks in detail, it's very hard for me or even for a system to understand the patient better by taking only one nadi. But if we have a nadi of a single patient, let's say 1,000 times are recorded in a 1 year of a single patient, system will understand much better what exactly this person is, when he will become ill, when he will become normal, how he is thinking. Everything we can understand through the nadi if we have a multiple recordings of a single patient. That feature also we added here, the wellness tracks feature. And it also gives a clear idea that suppose a patient comes to you, you took an nadi, let's say the empty heat it came. Now after 1 week you treated him. After 1 week he comes back again, and you took a Nadi again. What is the energy level which has changed? Whether it is changing, whether it is no way changing in the patient health, whether it's improving or not, or whether his problems are still are there, whether it's still it is worsening the problems. So these tracking details we need here actually. We need some kind of a tracks to understand the patient better. So keeping that in mind, so we added this wellness tracks feature. So this is, you can see that a case we had 23-year-old, a 23-year-old person suffering from chronic sinus problem, and he has a vertigo also, and he has a weak digestion. We took almost all the 5 readings. In all the 5 readings, we got Vata Kapha changes only. Means the damp Vata. There's no Agni at all. Making some head heaviness, sinus problem. Weak digestion is weak because the Agni is nowhere. So such level of analysis we can do on a single patient if we have a data. And for Ayurveda, we are adding one more feature we call Sabdosha analysis. This is also gives a clear idea that where exactly the imbalance happened. Whether it's a problem with the Apana Vayu, whether it's a problem with the Vyana Vayu, or the Ranjaka Pitta is deficient or excess. Because the one quality of this graph is that if it is excess, it show above. If it is deficient, it will show below. It go below. Now in this case, you can see that Pitta is excess, especially the Ranjaka Pitta and Varjaka Pitta are excess. But the Kapha is completely deficient, especially the Shleshaka and Kledaka Kapha. It's deficient. I tell you that Pitta Vata means fire is excess, reducing the Kledaka Kapha, and especially definitely this person may end up with the joint pain issues, arthritis issues. So such level of analysis we can do on a single patient. So this is one Ayurveda feature we are adding. And diet plan we are suggesting both for TCM and as well as for Ayurveda. Diet and lifestyle recommendation, what to eat, what not to eat. And also, yes, sir. So we'll keep the discussion at the end, I think. We'll keep the discussion at the end of this presentation. Okay, so and what lifestyle corrections we can make. So that I discuss. Sir Kumara Krupan, sir, could you mute your mic? Sir, could you mute your mic, please? Yes. And for TCM, we are suggesting the Sujok acupuncture points and also the body acupuncture points. So what point we need to be treated. And it also gives a description about the point, like why we need to treat this point, what is the importance of this point. And these points will change based on the Nadi patterns, based on different organ energy levels. These points will change. And you can expect the change in energy. These are very sensitive points which we are suggesting. Within 3 to 4 days, you can expect the change in energy in the patient. And the new feature we are adding the language translation, because many people asked actually they want a report in their local language, regional language. So this feature is a new feature that we are adding now. So you can generate the report in your language only. This is a new feature which we added. So and at the end, so in the conclusion, especially in the Ayurveda version, we have VPK, organ energy levels, and we are using a generative AI diagnosis prediction where it generates the report both for Ayurveda, it generates in the Ayurveda language. For TCM, it generates in TCM language. And we have automatic symptom prediction and diet and lifestyle corrections we are adding here. And finally, we have wellness track feature, progress tracking. We can monitor the patient over a period of time, what happens actually in the patient body before and after the treatment. Thank you. Thank you very much.